Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Randy Gooden, and I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Greenwood Economic Development Commission. If you would stand with me at this time, we're going to go ahead and do the pledge of allegiance, and we'll get things underway.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Good, are you here?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Spindler,
Present.
Mr. Romero,
Here.
and Mr. Hill.
Here.
And I believe Mrs. Jacqueline's not here.
Right. Thank you. Before we roll into new business, you have the minutes from the last two meetings before you. I wanted to see if there was any question over those minutes, and if not, if I could get approval. We'll go first with the March 4th meeting minutes and see if I can get a motion for approval on those. Or those questions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And actually, we'll need to do any votes by roll call.
All right, we can have a roll call then.
Mr. Good,
Aye.
Mr. Spindler,
Aye.
Mr. Romero,
Aye.
and Mr. Hill.
Yep. Aye.
All right, thank you. And then we're going to go for the March 15th minutes, where we had the presentation for Resolution 2101 brought before us, and ask if there's any questions over those minutes. And
Any questions?
if not, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second. That's both of them second.
All right, could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Good,
Aye.
Mr. Spindler,
Aye.
Mr. Romero,
Aye.
and Mr. Hill.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And looking at the agenda, we have two new business items before us tonight. And the first one is the election of a vice president. And for those in the audience that may be asking why we're doing this when we elected the president and secretary a meeting ago, we hadn't had one, and it came to our attention via legal that we have to have a vice president for this board. So that is why we're doing this afternoon. With that said, I'm going to open the floor up for nominations.
I move to nominate John Merrill for vice president.
I second that.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to close the nominations. And I need a roll call for John Merrill as the VP.
Mr. Good,
Aye.
Mr. Spindler,
Aye.
Mr. Romero, I don't know if you can vote, but,
I'll abstain.
okay. And Mr. Hill.
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. The next thing on the agenda is a presentation over the impact survey results from Aspire Johnson County. And here is Amanda and Christian to give us a presentation. So if you would, please.
Thank you again for providing us with the ability to do this survey and some direction. I wanted to introduce the consultant that will be giving the presentation today. This is Valerie DeLong. She is with Direct Impact Partnerships. So I'll come back up and answer any questions that you may have and just move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you.
Thank you, Bob, who's getting us set up, for having me here this afternoon. I've enjoyed working on this project. Amanda and I have known each other for quite some time. She brought me on board, and then Meryl and I had some conversations early on. It's been an interesting project, and I'm going to share some of the results with you this afternoon, and hopefully you'll find it interesting as well. Okay? Thank you. Okay. So, this was the post-COVID daytime population study that was sponsored by City of Greenwood and Aspire County. Let's see. There we go. So my company is Direct Impact Partnerships, and I was hired basically to plan, create, and coordinate and analyze a citywide survey that would really help determine the impact of COVID-19 on the current and future daytime population in the city of Greenwood. And there were two questions that we, in the end, just resolved that we needed to answer. One was, what will Greenwood's daytime population look like post-COVID-19? And the second was, what kind of amenities would best support a home-based workforce? So background, we conducted the study between February 22nd and March 22nd of this year. We sent an invitation postcard to 21,678 households in the city of Greenwood proper. We used the post office every door direct mail, so they told us how many residences there were, and we trusted them, and that's how many got out. If you are Greenwood residences, hopefully all of you got that, but I'll be showing you a copy of that in just a minute. It was promoted not only, of course, through the postcard, but a press release went out that was picked up by Inside Indiana Business and the Johnson County Daily Journal. Aspire website had information, the Greenwood website had information, and several social media channels. We also offered a $100 gift card as an incentive, so I have never heard who won it, but I'm assuming that drawing happened and they were very happy. Planning process. So we started by conducting interviews, 10 of them. So you can see the list here. Mayor Mark Myers, was on there, of course. Kevin Steinmetz from the city. Adam Stone, the consultant with Julie's Name Strategies. Jackie Haynes, the Midland Atlantic Properties. John Sturm, Johnson County REMC. Brett Tilson, Tilson HR. Derek Christie, Horizon Property Group. Peter Cleveland, attorney. Mark Deagle, with Mark Deagle Realty, and Jody Milton with Century 21 Commercial Real Estate. And then I spent quite a bit of time just looking at other surveys that had been asking similar questions. And I found some national and some regional. Interestingly, I could not find any local kind of municipal surveys like we were planning to ask. Now, since we ended, there may be some, but at the time we couldn't find any. So we're kind of ahead of the curve there. Our desired response rate was 1,000, that would be 4.6%. Our actual response rate was 470, which was 2.16%, and I'm going to address that in just a moment. We had an 89% completion rate. The average time to take the survey was 3 minutes and 2 seconds. All of this is tracked through SurveyMonkey. Love them. We had 51 questions total. And we did extend the deadline by 1 week at the end just to accommodate additional responses. We did get a handful of additional responses in that week, not a large number, but we did get some, so it was a good thing that we did it. So SurveyMonkey, nationally recognized, many of you may have used it or at least taken surveys through SurveyMonkey. According to SurveyMonkey, a response is required for a population of 21,700, which is roughly what we had, with a 95% accuracy rate and a 5% margin of error, which is considered standard, would be 378. So since we had 470 responses, this population survey actually is considered statistically significant and can be used to draw conclusions about future work from home populations. We did also look at what's known as a non-response bias, which is, what about the people who didn't respond, those 21,700 people who chose not to? Is there a bias by whatever criteria? And what we found, you basically test that by looking at the demographics of the population you reached out to and the demographics of the people who responded. So we did find that it was skewed a bit by age, race, homeownership status, level of education, and family income. However, there are differing opinions on how important non-response bias may be, particularly when it comes to those kinds of demographics. So when I came to work on some of the final conclusions, I did take a few of those things into consideration and weighted the conclusions, but not across the board. And quite honestly, it's very likely, although there's no way for us to prove this, that just many of the lower wage earners, blue collar, who are not working from home, or retirees who got the mailing, just chose not to respond because it was obvious from what the postcard said what we were looking for. So we think that that's one of the reasons that we were skewed by age and income, et cetera, here. The budget had been allotted $15,000. You can see we came in at $14,045, so just under budget. So if you did get the postcard, you may not recall, this is basically the cover of it. So we wanted it to be bright. We used the colors from both the city and Aspire. People would notice it. So when it got into their mailboxes, it was a good size. That was the front, and the back just gave them an explanation of what we were trying to do. And the big QR code, so folks who wanted to pull out their phones and scan it and do it on the spot can do that. Obviously, it also tells people how they can log in. And then we talk about getting the gift card here as well. So what did we learn? So basically, work from home statistics. Roughly 82.5% of the respondents were currently employed. 51% of those currently work from home. Just short of 86% who currently work from home believe they will continue to work from home in the future. Only 1.37% who currently work from home say they will not work from home in the future. So if you add the 1.37 and the 85.84, you're looking at less than 90%. So there's 10% who don't even know, who could likely be working from home as well. But almost will allow them to work from home at least 3 to 5 days a week. And in this case, 72.73% who do work from home believe they will continue to do so 3 to 5 days a week in the future. And here we go, 22.5% who are not employed are looking for work from home opportunities. So we have, in addition to the people we know about, people who say, I would like to be able to work from home. Why they want to work from home, 91% do so because of decreased commute time. And we're going to talk about commute time in a few minutes as well. 67.5% of those, it's because they wanted more family time, and about 31% say it's just easy access to local amenities. We asked the question, what percentage of them would be willing to change jobs in the future in order to work from home if their employer said you have to come back to the office? And that was 48%, which is a good number. 17.5% said they would actually take a pay cut to work from home. And if you jump just to the bottom one a moment, 25% are neutral about that. So in theory, you could take that 17 and 25 and come up with 42.5. So just short of half who would say they would actually take a paycheck. Nationally, one of the surveys that I reviewed, a couple that I saw, said about 30% of workers said they would take a pay cut if they could stay home because the benefits were so strong. We did have 57.5% who would not take a pay cut in order to work from home. So pre-COVID work experience, about 90% of the people who worked in an office that had commutes of 20 minutes or longer, which of course tells you that they were traveling outside of Greenwood then for those jobs. 47% said if of those who had 20 minutes plus commute said they would take an office job in Greenwood if the commute was less than 20 minutes. Whether or not they were allowed to work from home, if they could stay close from home, they would take that job. And then of these people, about 44%, they said their respondents, their office spaces were very traditional, the ones when they were in an office. 32% said their spaces were co-working or flex spaces, which I think is important when you think about what kind of potential development of office space Greenwood might be looking for in the future. Then doing business in Greenwood. 63% said that they spend more time and money doing business close to home. And about 86% of those said they do it definitely in Greenwood. And that's a pretty consistent thing when it comes to particularly the longer commutes. If your office is 20+ minutes away, you're finding a doctor and a dentist and maybe the grocery store and all of these locations away from home. They're either on your way home or you can take your lunch break and get to them. So the fact that these people are doing business closer to home is meaningful. About 81% said that they eat dinner out a few times a month or more. 73% said they eat breakfast or lunch out a few times a month or more. 78% said they're willing to pay moderate price for dinner. We didn't really give a dollar range, just did the $2 and $3 and $4 signs. But almost the same number, 77% said they would pay for a higher price, $3 to $4 sign dinners. And then this kind of it's not about money, but just spending time. 61% who work from home, they said, are spending more time using the parks and trails in Greenwood since they've been working from home. Living in Greenwood, 59% say they plan to live in Greenwood indefinitely. More than 60% stay in Greenwood because of affordability, convenience, and their safe neighborhoods. And between 40 and 60% stay because of accessibility to amenities. They get more house for their money here, the quieter lifestyle, and the school system. And then 87% believe that they have sufficient reliable broadband and internet at home. Family size, 57% of our respondents have children living at home. 46% had children who were preschool, 88% children who were school age. Of course, those are significant because we've all heard during COVID the difficulty of having kids at home. Hopefully they are going back to the classroom, but I don't know what's happening in Greenwood. I've certainly been hearing around the country there are school systems trying to continue with some kind of a hybrid. So that impacts your home-based workforce. And then 25% have children at home who are college age or young adults who, of course, should not have to be impacted by whether their parents are at home working. So we came to a number of conclusions. I'm going to share just 3 of them here specifically that are specific to your interest. So basically, by weighting by employment and age, there are likely about 15,600 individuals over the age of 18 who will constitute your Monday through Friday daytime population in the city of Greenwood. And that does not include people who work in Greenwood but live outside. So we'll just certainly have additional people in the city who would be spending money during the day because they're working here. Based on the number of people working from home, there are roughly 8,600 people who are spending more money in Greenwood during the day than they did prior to COVID-19. And that does not include those who work in Greenwood but live outside, or the non-working adults. So whether they just don't have a job and they're looking, or they are retired, those are not included in that 8,600. And then really based, kind of referred to this before, based on the commute time issues that people had, we believe there is really room for development of mid to low-rise office buildings in Greenwood that would attract new and existing companies who are looking for a well-educated, strong workforce who want to work close to home. So that's the end of the formal presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. I know Amanda is ready to jump in with things as well.
Well, my first question is, where will these results be available, and how will they be utilized? Thank you very much. I find that to be very informative.
Good.
And to tag on to that, I'm guessing this is available to the Madison Avenue Development Group, building the new downtown development.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we wanted to first give our presentation to you as you were the sponsors of this. But we'll be doing a press release, and we'll also be doing kind of a one-page marketing piece that that our local real estate professionals and things like that can utilize to promote additional amenities that clearly our folks have desire for. So yeah, we will have that information available.
And then will this be available on the Johnson County's fire website for
Yes.
people to access like in its entirety, or?
No, not
just
really in
a
the
summary?
raw form, just because there are email addresses, things like that won't be, but more of a pared down, more of the executive briefing that Valerie completed, something like that will be a little bit closer.
So I'd be curious what was the most surprising to you, and what and then maybe what lined up the way you kind of thought it might going in. Is that a fair question?
Oh, yeah.
We were asked lengthy questions, there were write-in answers to a number of the questions, and one was things that you might like to see development-wise, and there were probably 5 pages when I printed them off. But there were several that talked about entertainment venues, whether, live theater, or that people talked about more like public, festivals and fairs and things like that. But one basically said that Greenwood needed to build a roller coaster because Kings Island was the closest one, and it's the only one here, and it would draw lots of people, and there's plenty of room for it. So, okay.
Something we didn't consider for our strategic plan.
Right, yeah,
Oddly enough.
it's like, that needs to go in Fisher's next to all the stuff they have up there, right? No, I think that's because I had looked at so many of the other surveys, and when you look at validity of surveys, I think there's 4 things that you can look for. But one of them is kind of continuity. Does it ring true somewhat to what other surveys say? And this one did. I mean, we had a smaller number, obviously, of people. But generally speaking, in terms of why they live in the communities they live in, why they want to stay, what are they looking for in their work life, et cetera, et cetera. And it rang true pretty well. So there's nothing that jumped out at me that was a big surprise.
So I'm assuming that the city saw a boost in restaurant tax revenue from an additional 8,000 people eating at Able Emporium every day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, they're probably all there.
I would assume, but we didn't necessarily dig into those numbers.
Go ahead, Tom. No, the one thing that really jumped off the page at me, I'm in the real estate business, and I hear a lot of people talk about wanting some additional higher end eating opportunities. And so in particular, the difference between mid-priced or, the $2 signs and $3 or $4 signs, that was like one person different. And so that really was one thing that jumped off the page to me that kind of proved out what I've been hearing from folks. And then the other thing was, if I heard this and understood this properly, 90% of the people were, prior to COVID, commuting outside of the area more than 20 minutes. That was a higher percentage than I suspect.
Now, again, because that was based on the respondents.
That's true.
And that was one of those things that, potentially weighted, but, well, I did try to wait for that. So you're gonna have people who, depending on the kind of jobs they have, it may make sense if they're going to Indianapolis or they're going to Northside or whatever. But, yeah, it was a good number. That actually was one that was surprisingly big.
So with this information, and we know that we need mid to low rise office buildings based on the constraints we have with land here in Greenwood, how is Aspire going to use this information to try and draw that here? And kind of what is your future plans with this data?
Well, I mean, the information that we received from this survey really just shored up the study that we did as part of our strategic plan. our strategic plan has us focused on these advanced industries, which are these higher wage jobs that are currently commuting 20 minutes away, at least 20 minutes away from our communities. And so this just shores up and continues the work that we're already doing. Having this study will help us. We'll have a marketing piece put together so that when we do have companies that are seeking space that reach out to the state or that I receive inquiries from, I'll be able to share with them additional data, not necessarily old data that we currently have in the daytime population. Numbers from the census, things like that. We'll have additional data to be able to provide them and say, well, the information that you have that you are usually getting here, we actually did a study. We've got additional information, and look at this workforce that we have that's currently commuting out of the area, and the workforce that is interested in having a shorter commute. And so this just helps us provide them with better data to help with that attraction.
Anything else? Thank you. I appreciate the presentation and the
Thank you.
study.
Thank you so much.
All right. That brings us to the conclusion of what we have listed for new business. Is there any comments from the commissioners, any old business that I may need to be aware of that we need to discuss?
Not here.
I have none other than our next meeting is actually gonna be September 2nd, right?
It's just gonna stay, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
It's
just
September 2nd.
confirming. Okay.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn this. Let everybody get back to their regular business. So I've got 4:29. I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for being here. Wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Cindy, I think we need to see you for signatures, don't we? Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good to see all of you.
It's nice to be back in person.
You
Yeah, I
want
was
to
just gonna
sign
assume
this
that.
one? Start that one and
All right.
then start next to his, yep. All right, I'll take this.
Thank you.
Are we all finished?
Meeting.
Are we all?
Yeah.
Yes. I missed the adjournment.
Good vouchers.
We don't do that here.
No, it'll be emailed to you, right?
We don't do vouchers.
Used to.
Oh, pay vouchers, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant something else.